Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 26 of my 2021 reads. This week I read so many amazing books. I really think that basically anything I read this week you should pick up if you're interested in it. It's such a great reading week. I did have to pause one book because of timing issues, but really so many great books this week. I do have timestamps and content warnings in the description box below. So first, I finished A Dead Djinn in Cairo by P. Djèlí Clark. This was one of my most anticipated reads this year, and I do have a full standalone review, which is already up, so I will link that below. This book is P. Djèlí Clark's first full-length novel, both ever and in his Dead Djinn universe series. I had such a fun time with this book. So in this book, it takes place in an alternate history steampunk version of the world in 1912 in Cairo, where 40 years previous, a mystic called Al-Jahiz had opened up a portal between the magical world where Djinn and other beings reside and Earth, which really changed the course of history. And now Djinn are a normal, everyday part of life. They're Egyptian citizens. However, one day, somebody claiming to be Al-Jahiz returned comes and mass murders an entire group of people. And we follow Agent Fatma, who is trying to uncover what happened, capture this person, and also deal with a lot of other things going on in her life. So this book is so fascinating in terms of the world building and the magic and all of the history and the politics. And it's really fascinating as well, just in terms of Fatma and her personal growth and her relationships with other people. I had such a fun time with this book. I think that P. Djèlí Clark is just an amazing writer, although I will say that I think that his novellas are just paced 100% perfectly, whereas this novel, I feel like he's still maybe getting familiar with that length, and I found the pacing was just slightly off, especially in terms of the way that the mystery unfolded, where I understood what was going on in the mystery, half a book before the characters actually did. So a little bit off on the pacing, but still such a fun read. I definitely recommend this. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Golem Girl by Riva Lehrer. This is a memoir of a queer Jewish artist who grew up in the 1960s in the US with spina bifida. This is a book that I heard about from Rincey at Rincey Reads, who has an entire review for it, so I will link that below. And I will have a review for this coming out later this week because I loved this book so much. When I was reading this, I couldn't think about any other books, and I am the sort of person who reads, 5 or 10 books at a time, but I just couldn't concentrate on anything else because this book was so good. This memoir is just filled with so much about Lehrer's experiences growing up with a disability that for a lot of people meant that they wouldn't reach adulthood. And so kind of that experience of being in and out of hospitals, about the advocacy for healthcare that her mother had in the 60s, and also dealing with a lot of real issues in terms of interactions with family, those sorts of things, and then growing up into somebody who identifies as queer, who is bisexual, who is actually full of love of sex when society really tries to desexualize her because of her disability, and the advocacy that she has for herself and how she developed into somebody who is an artist that uses her art to talk about disability and to talk about the beauty of so many different types of bodies. It is just a fantastic book. If you like memoirs, you definitely have to pick this up. And again, I'll have a review for this out later this week. I really loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and this is for sure going to be one of my favorite reads of the year. Next, I read The Best Did It by Maulik Pancholy. This is an adorable, sweet, contemporary middle grade that I heard about from Adri at Perpetual Pages, who I will link below, and they never steer you wrong when it comes to middle grade. This was such a great middle grade. So this is a story about an Indian American middle school kid who is facing a lot of bullying at school and really just doesn't know how to find kind of his sense of self, and he's getting really anxious and just needs to find find a way to find value in himself. And his grandfather recommends that he find something that he's the best at, and then he can find that value and belief in himself through that. And so he tries all kinds of different activities, trying to be the best at each one. This is just such a sweet story, and it's also a little bit of a realization as well that he's gay, that happens slowly throughout the story. It is so sweet. It's got that, middle grade humor, really adorable. I loved the family dynamics, the grandfather, the parents are excellent, the best friend is excellent. It is just, it's everything that I want in a middle grade. It's got a lot of heart, a lot to say, so fun and sweet and just excellent. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read World of Wonders by Aimee Nezhukumatathil, illustrated by Fumi Nakamura. This is a book that I've heard a ton of different people talking about, and I can see exactly why. It is an excellent book. So this is basically a collection of essays which are half nature writing and half memoir. So each of these essays tackles a different animal or plant, talks about what those animals and plants are, kind of where they're found, and really talks about the personal connection that Nezhukumatathil has to that plant or animal and relates it to a memory in her life. And that kind of personal connection to nature is so strong in this. It's really beautifully written. Nezhukumatathil is a poet, and you just feel the beauty of her writing. And this also tackles a lot of really kind of deeper issues in terms of American society. Nezhukumatathil is Indian, Filipina American, and there's a lot of instances where she relates memories of experiences with racism and microaggressions and things like that, just frustrations, but also a lot of other experiences that are just connections to her family or just to herself, identity. It's really beautifully written. If you liked anything like Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, I think you will love this book too. Just that personal connection to nature, beautiful writing, very immersive, and the illustrations are also really adorable. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Another nature writing book that I finished this week and absolutely adored is Crazy for Birds by Misha, Maynerick, Blaise. This is a book that I heard about from Alice at the Book Castle, who I will link below, and I requested my library get a copy. They did, and I love this book so much that now I need to get myself a copy. It is fantastic, both in terms of what it is doing as well as the artwork. This is all illustrated nonfiction, and I'll show images again. It is filled with absolutely stunningly beautiful, vivid colors and all of these gorgeous illustrations of so many different types of birds. And birds are so vibrant in the way that they look that it just really comes across on the page so gorgeous. And in addition to just the beautiful artwork, this book is filled with tons of fascinating facts. This is basically a book of bird facts. And it's just so cool learning about different birds and their habitats and their feathers and their eggs and all sorts of different things. I also really liked that the author has a ton of humor in this. It's just lots of cute little funny asides, really adorable drawings, and the ways that she makes the personalities of the birds speak. It's very funny. And I like the way that this is as well a little bit about that personal connection with birds. There's a lot of things in here talking about how humanity relates to birds, the importance of birds, the way that we integrate bird things into our culture and our artwork and our heritage. It is just such a lovely book. Really funny, super quick read. I think that this is definitely something that I think will appeal very much to adult audiences, but also I think middle grade would love this book too. It is such a great book. I loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read a children's picture book, We Wait for the Sun by Dovey Johnson Roundtree and Katie McCabe, illustrated by Raissa Figueroa. This is a book that I heard about from Becca at Read Becca. I will link her channel below. I absolutely love her recommendations. And this is such a beautifully illustrated young children's picture book. It has got these gorgeous colors, purples and blues and pinks, and just really, really beautiful nature as well as people illustrations. It is a memory, a small story of Dovey Johnson Roundtree's childhood, a memory of her going berry picking with her grandmother in the kind of early pre-dawn time, and being out berry picking when the sun comes up. And it's really sweet. So Katie McCabe, who is the author of this, she is somebody who wrote a biography of Dovey Johnson Roundtree, who was a civil rights lawyer and activist. And so in the back of this book, it gives you a little mini bio of Dovey Johnson Roundtree and talks about why this specific memory was so important to her. So that was really cool too, for like adults to read that part at the end. But the picture book itself is just very beautiful and just a really sweet and simple story. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And then I did pause one book this week, which was Stars in My Pocket Like Grains of Sand by Samuel R. Delaney. I was reading this because Amanda at Butch Poetics is running the Queer Futures Book Club, and this was the book that was chosen for the springtime, and I will link that below. I made a mistake in terms of timing. Amanda had warned me that this book was something that was a little dense to get through and took some time, and I just did not budget myself enough time. I thought that I could get through this in a couple of weeks, and it just really was something that was demanding a lot more attention and was slower going than I was expecting. So I got through 37% of this, and I'm gonna pause it for now with the intention of coming back in a couple of months when I can devote that time to it. Samuel R. Delaney does some really fantastic world building in this, but it's so fantastic sometimes that it's a little hard to wrap your mind around. So I just need to be in that kind of mind space where I have the time to sit through and slowly read it and not just kind of try to blitz through like I would normally do with something that is science fiction. So definitely enjoying it. Samuel R. Delaney has a lot to say, and the way that he kind of pushes the boundaries in terms of how we think of world building is very, very cool. I would give a synopsis, but I still don't really know what the book is about. It's all a little bit confusing, but hopefully I will come back to this and I will finish it later on this year. Okay, so that is everything that I read and paused this week. It was such a great reading week. If you guys have read any of these books, or if you're interested in any of them in particular, or if you have any thoughts or any recommendations or anything at all, just go ahead and leave me a comment down below.